Today on Jeff Does What, I'm going to show you how I made this. Live edge, painted, engraved, stained, sealed, wall art. Coming up. So to jumpstart this project off, first thing we got a piece of live edge walnut we picked up from Ortur when we went up there here a few days ago. Now this piece right here, it cost me, is $50 is what the tag said. I did have some discount on it. I don't remember what it was, but I think we ended up paying like $38 and some change for it. But this is what we're going to start off with. Now the very first thing we got to do on this board is to get all of this bark off. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull what I can off with my hand and a chisel and hope it comes off in one piece, just to make cleanup much easier, because we don't want any of this bark on here. So whenever we go to start cleaning it up, and just that way it's not falling off in a customer's house or wherever this is going, your house, customer's house, it doesn't matter. You just don't want this bark off in your room. Now, as we are removing this, we do want to be careful and make sure we don't damage the board itself, because that can cause us more problems down the road, just on trying to get that live edge to look how we want it. And I know y'all are probably questioning me like, Jeff, why do you have an automotive chisel over there? Well, it's what I have. Because this came in a punch set I bought years ago, 20 years ago probably. And I haven't had a chance to go invest in some good wood chisels yet. But if you want to help make that process faster, hit that super thanks button for me. Now that we got our bark off, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to come through with the DA sander and clean up these edges and try to get a little bit more of what's left of this bark off. And like I said, I just got my little palm sander, DA sander. All right, now that we got our edge all clean, all the bark off, it's time to get this a little bit smoother. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to run this through our Vevor planer. All right, so what we have here is a 13-inch Vevor planer. Like I said, I'm going to run this through here to get this a little bit smoother and just to make this a lot easier on my end towards the end of this. Now that we got this through our planer, I'm going to come over here and sand this a little bit smoother. Like I said, we have minimal sniping on here. There is a little bit, but I think that's because I tried to take off too much at one point. But it's time to get doing what everyone loves to do, and that's sand. Now, as you're sanding this, you got to remember, like I said, the better you get this now, the better the outcome. It's just like when I was an automotive painter, like I said, I was a glorified sander. So, especially when it comes to their finishing work, a lot of sanding. Painting was the easy part. The sanding, where you cut and buff, that's the hard part, because that's where you'll see all your little mistakes. And same thing with the body filler prior. If it's not perfect, paint's not going to help it. So just like this, whenever you are working on something, get it exactly how you want it, and like I said, the better that you have it now, the better the outcome in the long haul. Now with our board, I have this crack right here on the end I don't like, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here to the table saw. I'm going to cut it off, right off somewhere off in here, and at the same time, I'm going to square up this end as well. Now, we no longer have our crack, and we are somewhat squared up. Now the next part we're going to do, I'm going to come through, we got a few little knot holes. I'm just going to put a little bit of Star Bond off in there, just to give it a cleaner look, and to make sure nothing comes out of that later down the road. Now we got our CA glue dried. All I'm going to do, lightly sand it, and then it's going to be ready for us to do some engraving. Now with this board, we're also going to do some painting on it. And what I want to do beforehand, I'm going to take some pre-mask. Like I said, I use this normally for my vinyl. And I'm going to apply it to this board. So as it's engraving, it is also at the same time giving me a good area where once it is done engraving, I can just come through with my paint and paint the insides of these letters without having to worry about taping everything off, because it's a lot harder to tape off them letters after it's done than beforehand when I can just engrave through it. Like I said, all this is just some vinyl pre-mask that I use when I'm doing decals, and it works perfect for this. Now what we're using to engrave on this is my 130 watt CO2 laser. Like I said, this works out great because it is already in a nice big enclosure. And with this board, it's a little bit bigger than what most of my diodes can do, and it's going to produce quite a bit of smoke. So I'd much rather it be enclosed in this today. If it was nice and warm outside, I'd probably bust open my garage doors and use my diodes, because I actually like using them better than this CO2. I do have a few small issues with it, but it's nothing major. It's just some of my diodes are a little quicker right now due to the fact that I can only do this, I can't do this bi-directional for some reason. I'm not sure what it is. If anyone has experience with this on these Omtech 130 watt CO2s, let me know, because I'm having a hard time getting this to where it's wanting to run bi-directional again. And I'm not quite sure what it is, and tech support has been non-existent for me. So now we're framing this out to make sure everything's centered out. So what I did put a mark in the center of my board down there to make sure it's where I want it. Everything's lining up good. My pre-mask is covering my burn area. Nothing to do now but get it engraved. All right, now that we have our engraving done, I put a few other random things on here to cover up the rest of the exposed wood. I'm going to actually leave this on here due to the fact that there's a fan sucking these fumes out already. And I'm just going to go over this with some aerosol. And it's simple. I'm just... That way on this walnut, we have a nice, dark, black coverage on there to make it stand out even more once this cures and we pull all that pre-mask off and expose that wood. And like I said, It makes it so easy, especially now I'm not having to sit here and tape all this off. It's already taped off for me. The wood's burnt. Can't get much more easy than that. So we're gonna let this sit here and dry for a second. We're gonna flip it over and do the engraving on the other side. Now we have our other side all set up. We did the same thing with the pre-mast. We got everything all lined up. Now on this side, we are doing just a name, and we're doing it smaller to this one side over here, just because that's what customers wanted on here. So nothing to do it but to engrave it. All right, now that we got both sides painted, or engraved and painted, it's time to remove our pre-mask. And like I said, this stuff comes off extremely easy. It's one of the reasons I like to use it. And it just makes that dark print pop so much more on this board. I mean, it is nothing to it. Like I said, we do have a few little spots we'll have to touch up from the pre-mask pulling off paper, but it makes it really easy to get nice, crisp lines without all that headache. Now I'm just using a razor blade to get the small pieces out from inside the letters. Take your time with this because you don't want to scratch your board with a razor blade. You don't have to use a razor blade. I just do it because it's what I prefer to use, just from years and years of weeding vinyl. And when I say I mean years. I started weeding vinyl back in high school when I got my first plotter, and I've been out of high school for over 20 years. Now, all we got to do now is to seal this up and it'll be ready for the customer. All right, so the last step we got to do on this, like I said, I got some Watco butcher block and stain. I'm going to come through, wipe this over this whole piece to give it this nice finished look. We get real good into grain. And I like this stuff because, like I said, it also seals it at the same time. And I don't know exactly what they're going to be using this for, so that's why I'm using a butcher block stain, because like I said, she's giving this to their customer, so they might even turn this into a charcuterie board or something like that. But most stains you wouldn't have an issue with it on using it for that, but I'd rather have something I know that is meant for a butcher block on here as well, just to have that peace of mind. As I'm doing this, I am getting the edges on this side. I do have some Craig blocks underneath this to keep it raised up off my table. These things are real nice. I ended up picking some up the other day when I stopped off at Rockler. First time going there. Ended up quite a few new items from there. Definitely like that place. I wish I had one local so I didn't have to drive 2 hours. Now, as you see, we got this all done. It came out great looking. Like I said, I know I'm happy with it. This walnut looks so good. That nice dark black paint in that engraving just really draws more attention to that, and it looks a lot better than just the raw wood in there, so it gets a little bit more depth to it and a little bit of live edge on this. I mean, who wouldn't want a good, nice live edge board hanging up in their house? I'd like to thank all y'all for sticking around and watching us make this live edge sign here on Jeff Does What. And if you could, if you liked it, give this video a like. Or if you got someone else you think that might like our content, help share our videos around. It definitely helps out the channel, and we need as much help as we can get to help bring more and more projects to y'all. Like I said, we got quite a bit more lined up, so make sure to hit that subscribe button while you're doing everything else. And until next time, y'all take it easy.